Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and today we are continuing our comic book resources Planet of the Apes saga with this article here: Why Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake is so divisive. Despite strong visuals and impressive performances, Tim Burton's version of Planet of the Apes gets undone by a familiar problem. Ah, yes, the 2001 movie starring Marky Mark. Without the Funky Bunch. The biggest missed opportunity with this movie was not getting Mark Wahlberg to do the theme song, akin to what Will Smith did for Men in Black. If you remember that, at least Will Smith headlined the movie, but he also did the theme song to Men in Black, and Will Smith before this whole shebang.
Oh wow!
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
But enough about the behind the scenes of G.I. Jane 2, what is it? The Entanglement. That's what it is. G.I. Jane 2, The Entanglement. Let's get right back to Planet of the Apes. Why Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake is so divisive. Despite strong visuals and impressive performances, Tim Burton's version of Planet of the Apes gets undone by a familiar problem. Tim Burton's 2001 adaptation of Planet of the Apes went down as one of the director's more epic misfires. Though possessed of a keen vision and featuring remarkable performances from Tim Roth and Helena Bonham Carter, it stumbled in Burton's familiar weak spot, the plot, and was ultimately undone by the changes from the celebrated classic from 1968. It led to a reboot with 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was far better received and whose resulting trilogy may have eclipsed the Burton version for good. Today, it remains a curiosity in the franchise, unique in and of itself, but otherwise remarkable. And yet, not all of the missteps were entirely of its own design, and Burton's vision still holds power even without a stronger story to back it up. That helped it find supporters who appreciate the better angels of the film's nature. Like a lot of Burton's features, Planet of the Apes is interesting even when it doesn't succeed. Indeed, Planet of the Apes' best feature are its most generalized ones, specifically how its simian-run society looks and operates. The story entails an astronaut named Leo Davidson in the near future who works with apes on board an orbital space station in an effort to train them to undertake dangerous space missions and spare humans the hazards. An ion storm causes the space station to crash on a distant planet, while Leo and a chimpanzee named Pericles, I think it was Pericles, get thrown into the future in a pair of space pods. Leo arrives on the planet thousands of years after the crash. The descendants of the simian test subjects gain sentience and now rule the human descendants of the station's other personnel. It's a long and convoluted ride to get to the things that clearly interest the director. The nuts and bolts of how the society works are fantastic, from the unique tools, clothing, and buildings that ape society use to how it playfully mocks all too human cruelties. The costumes and makeup are also stunning, aided by a talented cast emulating simian behavior with unsettling accuracy, which earned both makeup artist Rick Baker and costume designer Colleen Atwood considerable awards attention. The film is also notable on that front because it's the last time practical makeup got used in a Planet of the Apes film. Yes, I believe Andy Serkis did all motion capture. Excuse me. Andy Serkis did all motion capture for Rise, Dawn, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Unfortunately, a compelling world can sometimes make up for a nonsensical plot. The specifics of getting Leo to the planet are absurdly complicated, and beyond the scenario's basics of engineering a human revolt against the ruling apes, it doesn't have the first idea of where to go. The kicker is the finale, in which Leo returns to Earth only to find it too ruled by apes, with his chimpanzee nemesis General Thade now lionized in the Lincoln Memorial. The moment, intended as an ironic twist matching the famous Statue of Liberty reveal in the 1968 version, didn't have a logical explanation, and without a more developed justification, it torpedoed any goodwill from the film's better elements. There is actually some justification for taking the approach they did. The idea for the ending comes from Pierre Boulez's original 1963 novel, on which the entire franchise is based. The 1968 film stays quite close to the specifics of its plot, with a more straightforward exploratory mission of human astronauts crash landing on a distant planet in the future, save for the ending. In the novel, the human hero escapes the simian-led planet and returns to Earth, only to find it ruled by apes. The logistics may have been too complex for the needs of the 1968 movie, which altered the twist to make the planet Earth the whole time and simplified the novel's action in the process. That doubtless proved tempting to Burton since it provided an opportunity to deliver a much different ending than the 1968 film and still stay true to the material's roots. But without proper logic and build-up behind it all, the whiplash becomes meaningless, and with the rest of the movie just pretty visuals in search of a story, it kept the franchise on hiatus until a reboot could come together a decade later. It left this version of Planet of the Apes a noble failure, but a failure nonetheless. And I would argue this is where Tim Burton's where the real failure of Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes was. You know, the real failure obviously what was the ending. It made absolutely no sense to most people, to anybody watching it. And it also goes to show you why they didn't even use the original ending for the 1968 film, because, well, it's going to be way too difficult to adapt to the big screen. So why bother? Let's change up the ending, make it a little easier for people to get into. But the biggest issue with Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes was it could have been a much more faithful adaptation of the book. Because remember, the original movie chose to leave the ape society primitive to keep the budget cheaper, right? Because in the book, the ape society was far more advanced and far more futuristic, and Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes movie, I believe, it had a much bigger budget behind it. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I know I'm searching on IMDb, and you guys can't see it, but I am searching on IMDb right now. Planet of the Apes. Here we go. First one to pop up is the shitty reboot with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. What was the movie's budget? Yeah, it had a $100 million budget, and yet Tim Burton still chose to keep the ape society primitive. Why didn't he advance it to where they're flying helicopters, they're driving cars, all this other stuff that was in the book that was obviously absent from the 1968 original, again, due to budgetary concerns, but Tim Burton didn't have those same budgetary concerns as the original filmmakers did in 1968. And I'm not saying that the ending would have gone down smoothly either. He needed to preserve the ending from the 1968 movie because, as we brought up in the other Planet of the Apes videos, the twist ending was twofold, right? The first one was, the astronaut escapes the Planet of the Apes, goes back to Earth, finds it ruled by apes. But the second fold was that the people that were hearing the story repeated back to them were chimpanzees who refused to believe that humans were actually an advanced species. So again, what works in the book does not always translate well to screen. So to answer the question, why Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake is so divisive, well, like the original twist ending, it's twofold. Number one, the ending was way too confusing. They should have preserved the original ending from the 1968 version, and they should have made this version much closer to the original book. It should have been much more faithful to the original book. That would have justified this movie's existence. But instead, no, we're just going to go back and make the original movie prettier and add an ending that is so confusing that it's not based in logic. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here before I drag this out for way longer than it needs to be. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.